Hey there, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate.
And today we're taking a look at Cubitos by AEG.
In Cubitos, players are going to be pushing their luck, rolling cubes, dice, trying to move their character around the racetrack to cross the finish line first. This is a push your luck game with some dice manipulation, variability, luck mitigation, that sort of thing. Let's go ahead and take a look at it on the table. All right, I have Cubitos on the table here. Let me show you how this game works. As we already mentioned, it is a race game, push your luck. In this game, you are going to be represented as a meeple on the race board of a certain color. You're also going to have a second meeple that you're going to put on this board right here. We'll come back to what that board is here in just a second. And then you're going to have a player board. In this game, you are going to be given 9 different cubes or dice, 7 of these gray ones that only have a 1 on them in a circle, and then 2 of the darker gray ones that have the 1 in a circle and a foot. And so how this game works is you're going to pick 9 dice that you are going to roll. And you can see here that there is a 9 to tell you that that's how many you get to roll in this game. And so you only have 9 at the beginning of the game. So you're going to roll all 9 dice. And so we'll go ahead and do that. And if you get anything on any of your dice, you're going to move them over here to the active slot. And so we would move these ones over here. And as soon as you have at least 3 dice in the active slot, you can risk busting. And so what that means is every turn you can push your luck by re-rolling the blanks. But as I said, if you have at least 3 over here and you re-roll your blanks and you get nothing, then you have busted and you lose your turn. You don't get to use any of your active dice. You do get 1 benefit, and we'll come back to that here in a second. If you don't have at least 3 over here, you can continue to re-roll these blanks, and you're not going to bust until you have at least 3 active dice. Now, if you choose not to re-roll, or you do re-roll and you get something and you put it over here, and then you choose not to re-roll at that point, then you can go ahead and use these dice. Any numbers that you have are going to be points that you can use to spend in order to get new dice. And the costs for these dice is listed right here in the top right corner. And it will tell you what those dice do along with the different faces on those dice. Now, I'm not going to go over what each die does. Just know that there are 7 different cards for each of the dice. And so you can see just how much variability there can be in whichever ones you choose to pick for that particular race. On that note, real quick, I do want to point out that this board, this race board here, is double-sided, and there are 2 different boards. So there are 4 different maps that you can play on. Let's come back to the dice here. Numbers that are in circles are numbers or points that you have to use that round. You don't get to carry them over. This is the first player die. It's an extra die that the first player gets to roll on their turn. And you can see that this number is in a square, and that is because you actually gain one of these tokens, which is a point that you can hold on to and use on a future round if you so choose to do so. Footprints are going to allow you to move your meeple, which is ultimately the goal in this game because this is a race. You want to move around this board and cross the finish line first. And as you can see, there are different things on the board. I'm not going to cover every single one of those. Just know that you can pick up point tokens, you can remove dice that you don't want from your hand, you can gain dice, you can teleport across the board, all sorts of things. Typically, you cannot move through water spaces. However, there are some dice that allow you to do so. And after you use those dice, you are going to move them to the discard pile. And that's pretty much the gist of the game. In the future rounds, you would have to re-roll dice that you didn't use from the previous round. And if you have no more to add to get up to 9, then you would recycle your discard pile, moving it back over here, and then pick which dice you want to get back up to 9. Anytime you buy a new die, it will always go into your discard pile. And that's that. Now, there are ways to increase your number of dice that you're going to roll by getting these tokens, and primarily you do that on this board. I mentioned earlier that you do get a benefit if you bust. You don't get to use any of your dice, but you do get to move your character on this track 1 space forward. And when you do so, you gain any point tokens or increasing the size of your roll pile by 1 token there. So, and that's pretty much the gist of the game. Whoever crosses the finish line first is the winner.
let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one.
Okay, so now we're going to share our thoughts on this game and let you get some gameplay footage of Sam and I doing a 2-player playthrough of Cubitos. And we're going to share our thoughts on this. I'll go first and just kind of talk a little bit about this push your luck game. I'm a sucker for push your luck games. It's kind of one of my favorite types of games. That being said, it can be done well, and it can definitely be done in a not such great fashion to where it is strictly luck and you might as well just be flipping a coin kind of experience. I think Cubitos does it fantastic. I think it really does a good job of that dice manipulation, luck mitigation, where you get to make some solid choices as far as which dice you want, which dice you're choosing to roll, and what you do with those dice. If you want to push your luck and continue to try to get things on your dice, risking busting, that sort of thing. And then when you combine that with the race going on, this is a race game, I just feel like it all really connects and meshes well. What do you think, Sam? What are your thoughts on Cubitos?
Well, I don't think it would be a game review for me if I did not compare it to Splendor.
Okay. All right.
Just in the aspect of getting enough to get the different cubes and
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Collecting the cubes, and it starts out slow, as does Splendor.
Okay. Yeah, it's a sort of a deck builder experience, if you will. It's not deck building, but with cubes.
Cards. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. Okay. I was wondering where you were going with that at first. I was thinking Splendor. What? Okay.
I can relate most things to Splendor. But yeah, and it is a slower start, as is Splendor and other games where you have to slowly acquire things. But then, depending on what you acquire and how you play them, it does start to move a lot faster. So when we first started playing this game, I wasn't so sure because I was feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm moving one square at a time.
This is going to take forever.
It's going to take forever. But then as you play and as you figure out what each cube is going to do for you. And that was a little confusing at first too, because we've played it twice and it changes and they're so different, but it adds a lot to the gameplay as well, just because it changes your strategy. Am I trying to get more points so that I can get an orange one this time around? Mm-hmm. Or do I want these smaller cost ones, but they seem to help me more. I don't know. Yeah. I just think that the strategy changes with the type of dice that are out there.
Well, you mentioning that, there's lots of variability, lots of replayability with this game, depending on which cards you're going to use to determine what the different types of dice do. You can play this game 150 different times and you can change up what the different cards do, and each time it's a different game.
Yeah.
So there is an extreme amount of replayability here, and then you factor in the race board can be different. There's several different race boards that you can use. So I think that's a huge plus to this game, is the replayability factor.
I think that's a huge plus for a gamer, for sure. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit frustrating for a non-gamer, I can imagine, because, wait a second, I played this last time. I knew that I really wanted these orange dice, but now that's not what I want. Now the board's different.
So it shakes it up, and it can be uncomfortable having to relearn what some of the dice do and the strategy you want to build with that.
That was my feeling when we started playing it the second time, but then you get used to it and you figure it out, and I won both times. So.
Oh, lucky you. I can understand where you're going with that. Now, I do think, coming back to the slow start, we mentioned that this game can have a slow start to it, and it sort of feels like, man, I'm not getting a whole lot accomplished here. It's going to take forever to get things rolling. But once things do start to pick up and you're accumulating good dice and you are moving around the board, this game ends quick. It seems like it goes from, man, I am just creeping along like a turtle, to I'm a fast moving train here. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more middle ground there.
No, I think it's...
you like it being like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I sort of felt like that enjoyable experience of getting some combos to work out with my dice and really, kind of feeling like my strategy is really working because I'm hitting all my dice. That experience is kind of short and it's towards the end of the game. And once I really experience it, boom, the game's over because somebody crossed the finish line.
I just feel like if you had more of that time, then it would just become too complex with your strategy. I think you would overthink it a little too much. I think there's just so many options. I think it needs that quick end. Otherwise, I feel like you would
slow build
too much.
to a high peak experience at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that because that does produce a really exciting finish. And that is one thing I think I can say about every game that I've played of this so far, that the endings are very exciting because it is a race game,
And some people may have a problem with race games because it's just so straightforward. You just got to get to the finish line and that's really all there is to it. So some people may not really like that.
Which is definitely something different than, Splendor type games because at the end, then there's other points added, but it's simply and I like that because there have been other games where the end points really get me because maybe I'm not paying attention to all the little details, but there is one detail here. It is get to the finish line as fast as you can, and I appreciate that.
Okay. So there's definitely some pluses here that you say the way the game is, it really works well for you as a non-gamer.
Yeah.
And I would say from a gamer's perspective, this game is fantastic and that the choices that you're given are very good choices, meaty choices that really work well with the push your luck mechanic and the racing idea behind it. So lots of things going on with this game. So coming back up top here where you can see us now, we're going to kind of share some pros and cons from the non-gamer perspective. So Sam, again, kind of going over some of the things here that you like about this game. It's got a straightforward idea. It's a racing game. You want to win the race, cross the finish line first. You talked about how you can have those cards be set and you know what each dice is going to do, or you can change it up and make it more complicated, but you obviously prefer being consistent. This is what the white dice does. This is what the brown dice does. That sort of idea.
Yeah.
Any other things that you would say are strong pros for Cubitos?
It's a unique game for sure. We don't have a whole lot of games with that much dice play. And
oh yeah, for sure.
And that's fun. It's a unique experience. And just to physically have those
rolling, like 10 dice at a time is always a fun thing.
It's fun. So I think that's something
so the fun factor is pretty high on this one. Yeah. What about some cons? Any cons that you experienced with this game?
Other than very slow start, but it builds quickly and ends quickly. So I think it balances each other out. What else? I'd say the variability of it, I think, can be a con for a non-gamer. I think you get comfortable with something. I like being comfortable with the game and being able to play it again. And this is just one of those games where you know how to play it, but it changes so much that you're really playing a different game each time. So again, that can be a pro or a con depending on what type of a gamer you are.
Yeah, and to that, I think I would also add that, as a gamer, you have the option to keep the cards the same when you're playing with somebody who may not like that variability. And then when you aren't playing with someone like that, or you're playing with just gamers, you have the freedom to mix that up as much as you want. You can follow through in the rule book and follow the exact outlines for each one of your races. In fact, it kind of details, I think, the first 9 races or so of what you should do for each race. You can follow that to a T if you want. You can mix it up. It's your game. You do what you want.
Yeah.
So you have that freedom with this game of the variability, replayability factor there. So let's get into our scores for Cubitos. Scale of 1 to 10, love to hate. Sam, what do you give this game?
I really like this one. I think I'd probably give it an 8.2.
Really high, 8.2. Okay. I'm pretty high on this as well. The first time I ever played this, I think my words to Sam were, "This is a Quacks killer." And what I mean by that is this has the same sort of feel as Quacks of Quedlinburg with the push your luck mechanic.
Yeah, that's a game we didn't compare it to, but yeah, I totally
it's definitely what I compared it to.
Which is another one of my favorite games.
Right from the bat, as I was playing this, I was like, this has got some strong Quacks to it. And for me, it was a Quacks killer in the sense that I really felt like I had more control over pushing my luck, whereas in Quacks, it's just, man, I hope I don't get that white. I hope I don't get that white. Oh, I got, and it just sort of feels like when your luck is bad in Quacks, you're done for. There's nothing you can do. And at least in this game, there's some more catch-up mechanics built into it. So as I've played it a few more times, I maybe have cooled off a little bit on this game. I still really like this game. Yeah. I would probably say I'm about a 7.9 on it. And I do like it more than Quacks. And for me, I think I would rather play this than Quacks of Quedlinburg. I do think I really want to kind of keep both of them in my collection just because I do like bag building games. And you don't get that with this. This is all dice chucking. And so it's just kind of, whatever is your type of mechanic that you really enjoy, dice chucking or bag building, go with whatever one feels better with you. But I think I like this one more than Quacks. So 7.9 for me on the scale of 1 to 10. So is this one that you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's maybe a little bit higher age group than Quacks. I think just because you have to strategize a little bit more with what dice you're going to put out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that this is a...
Yeah, I do think there's more choices, more to think about in this game. And that might be one of the reasons why I think I like it more, because you have to pick which path you're going to take on the board. Yeah. You got to pick which cubes you want. You got to pick which cubes you're choosing to roll. I mean, there are more choices in this game. So yeah, for sure. All right. That was Cubitos from AEG.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content. And make sure to check out our website down below if you want us to review your game or you want some Love to Hate apparel.
All right, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
We are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.